Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Suited Kings podcast. Today, we have another final table review episode, but instead of it being an online hand review, this is going to be a live event in Las Vegas, the NAPT, which is a PokerStars hosted event. Many of you in the past have heard me praise the EPT live streams with the production quality, the play, and all that stuff. They actually now are in North America, and their tour is called the NAPT, which I believe is North American Poker Tour. That makes sense.
Those are the right letters.
Those are the right letters for it. So that's what we're going to assume. It's a $5,300 buy-in event with 895 entries. We got 4 hands we're going to review from that. But before we do, let's go ahead and plug some of the usuals here, Wes. Do you want to start us off with the home game?
Yeah. So next Tuesday, November 26th, we know the date this time, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, we will have another meetup game, tournament and ring game on clubspoker.com. Guys, if you want to get in there and play with us, sign up using the link in the description of this podcast. It helps support the podcast. It'll be a lot of fun. Max didn't even win it last time, so he's feeling less
Stone
cocky.
bubbled, as a matter of fact. I still won it 3 times.
You did stone bubble. You did stone bubble. Yeah.
You and I both have a stone bubble there.
Yeah.
I tried to stone bubble Wes, but he took it away. He won the hand twice.
Twice, actually, yeah. I might actually be in the lead for. I think I've cashed 4 out of the 5 times. So
that's a little something. 3 out of the 5 times.
No one cares.
Next Tuesday, the 26th, like Wes said. Join Clubs Poker using our affiliate code to support the podcast. You can find that in the description, whether you're watching it on YouTube or in Spotify,
listening to
Apple.
It on Spotify.
Yeah, in any of the descriptions, you can find that stuff. Sign up using our code to help support the podcast, and then come slap Wes on Tuesday, the 26th, 7:30 p.m. Central start. We'll have a 55 sweeps coin entry tournament and a ring game going at the same time. We love to splash, so it's pretty much free money. If you want to come play, Nitty, come take our money because we'll be blasting off. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Get in there, guys. Next up, get in our Discord. I know we talk about this every episode. We have literally on a daily basis, we have a lot of fun, in-depth poker discussion, both about events coming up and about specific hand reviews. If you have any suggestions, if you have any hands that you would like for us to review on the podcast, get in there and have some fun.
Yeah. Wes, you're getting pretty good at this.
Thanks, Max. I appreciate it. It's only been what?
Over a year.
A year and 2 months.
Yeah. And guys, again, if you want to join the Discord, all that good stuff will be in the description of whatever platform you're using to listen or watch this. Make sure to join our Discord. We love having you. And then when you come in, play the home game with us or the meetup game, you can chat with us because we're usually in there talking crap to each other over the voice channel. So make sure to check that out. Thirdly, and I'll plug this one, Wes, our YouTube channel. We started our YouTube channel about a few weeks back or so. We've got 3 or 4 videos on there now, hand breakdown videos, I believe, and an interview maybe even at this point. But videos easy to follow along. Sometimes Wes and I are sitting here jumbling what the flop is, what our hands are, what the stack sizes are. If you want to just make it easy on yourself, you can always check out the video version. This episode will have a video version. So make sure to check out our YouTube channel, link again in the description. And then while you're there, please subscribe and even like the video. All that good stuff helps our videos get to the top of the algorithm. And we want to grow Suited Kings. And so not much more else to say on that. Lastly, join clubs like Wes already said. And Wes, let's get into the action today.
Let's do that. So just a quick reminder, Max did mention 895 entries, $5,300 buy-in. There's $765,000 up top. The first hand we're going to look at starts with 6 players left. 6th place is 155,000. So we got first place is about 5x of 6th place. We got a lot more money to play for. So keep that in mind as we get into the action here. But
imagine how painful it would be to get like 9th in this tournament. 70K is a lot of money, but when 700K up top. So a good rule of thumb, guys, a good payout structure, 9th is typically 10% of whatever first is. So like if you see 9th at 70K, first is probably going to be somewhere around 700K. I mean, that's such a big difference to be so close, and it's painful.
Yeah. Well, and that's, if there are any more casual listeners out there who aren't really tournament players or don't play much poker at all, this is how poker tournaments can be like so great or so painful. Like there's
Yeah.
895 total entries and you've outlasted literally like 99% of them, 98% of them. And you can get a good ROI on your money, but there's so much more to be won in that final 1% of the tournament or the final several
Is there
players of the tournament.
is there another game anywhere in this world, in this universe, where you can make $70,000? Well, we'll say 65,000 because of the buy-in, and
Right.
then leave not happy.
There, yeah, probably other forms of gambling, I would say, at high stakes in a way,
Okay,
but
just say no next time,
point,
Wes. Okay.
yeah, I mean, like point, the point is accurate where it's like you
Win a
can see
pile of cash.
literal, not that 70,000 isn't necessarily life changing to some extent, but
To some people, it
700,
is. Yeah,
yeah, and like you
but then you're
usually if
yeah.
you're buying in for 5,300, either someone else has a lot of your action or 70,000 probably isn't that much, but
That's true, and that was exactly what I was going to say as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this first hand. So there's six players left. What are they guaranteed in sixth place again?
155,550.
So they're all guaranteed a nice chunk of money, 150K. The action starts under the gun. Again, it's six-handed, so under the gun is actually going to be low jack. Our hero here, or we'll just say Mika, Micka is the character's name here. He's got 38 bigs to start the hand, and he opens ace jack off. Next up, we have our chip leader Marchington, who is in hijack. Who's just so the next player to the left with pocket fives. He's got 100 bigs to start the hand. Wes, there's two other shorter players than Mika who open this hand. Do we want to be applying pressure by three betting pocket fives as chip leader here?
I don't hate it. And one thing that I would think about here with pocket fives is what are we getting four bet jammed on by? And it's going to be big pairs and ace king mostly. Like even, I don't know about ace queen in this spot.
I'm assuming your point is that we don't mind three betting and then folding if we
Yeah,
get jammed on
if
because we
we
know our
have to,
opponent is typically 20 to 30% equity.
yeah, the range that we get jammed on, like we're so crushed by it that it's kind of just fine.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I don't even know if our opponent would four bet jam ace queen. So to say it's only ace king and then over pairs, it just
yeah.
I like yeah.
And honestly, even ace king at a final table, like they're still deep.
Yeah.
I
38
think
bigs and 100 bigs so far.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting thing to think about. There's multiple ways to look at it. Like as Mika, he is under the gun here, or he's in the low jack, and if he gets three bet, he certainly doesn't want to get all the chips in and flip against Marchington here, who has him covered. But he also knows that if he gets four bet, or sorry, if he gets three bet, that Marchington is probably doing this with a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
then it also incentivizes him to four bet more in some sense.
I do agree with that, but then you got to pull that trigger. You know what I mean? Because of the ICM.
You do, and it's tough to do. One thing that makes me not want to three bet this is Marchington is just sort of the lack of a blocker. Like if pocket fives, we do want to see a flop with.
So
And
you'd rather him three bet like ace five
yeah, ace seven suited, ace nine offsuit.
instead of five five. Okay.
Yeah, something where it's like it doesn't flop. Not that pocket fives flops well, but if it flops well, it flops very well,
Yeah,
and
right.
we
You
can
flop a
win a
set.
whole
Yeah.
stack
Otherwise, you don't
potentially.
flop much. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So, so Mika opens low jack on 38 bigs with ace jack. Marchington calls in hijack with pocket fives, and it folds around. No one else is in the hand. The pot is 650K, so it's 50K, 100K big blind, right? So there's 6.5 bigs in the pot at this point.
Yep.
The flop comes a very interesting flop. It's five, deuce, eight, all spades. So our original raiser has ace jack with the ace of spades. So he's got two overs with the nut flush draw. And then our opponent, who's chip leading in the hijack, Flops middle set. We expect fireworks here. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Mika is still in a situation where he doesn't really want to get all the chips in. He can look at this from two sort of standpoints. One is sort of a pot control where obviously he has the nut flush draw and two overcards. He's not going to get blown off the hand right now.
Yep.
Um, so he could go for like a check call type line, or he could bet really small here and just, fold out any, not that a hand like queen 10 of diamonds has a ton of equity against us, but just, sort of clean things up and take down the pot now.
Yeah. I
Um,
like personally, if it was me, I would. So there's 650K in the pot or six and a half bigs. I love it when, the big blinds at like 100K or 10K or 1K just makes
it makes it
calculating easy.
easy. Yeah.
I would love to see like Mika bet like 1.7 170K here
Yeah. Yeah.
into 650.
I think that is the correct sizing to use. Just go kind of small.
Yeah.
You get to win sometimes. You get to, one thing to keep in mind here is I think maybe not at this sort of final table, but at, if we're thinking about a daily tournament or something, someone might be tempted to just bet big here and be like, okay, well, this way, I'll just, if they raise, I can get it all in here. And it's like, you don't want to make it so that if you get raised, you're kind of committing your stack. Obviously, we see a situation here where if he bets, he could get raised because he, Marchington flopped a set.
Yeah.
Um,
I, in hindsight as well, I do like that Mika, whatever.
yeah,
I do like that he checks here just strictly because he doesn't want to play for it all with just the ace high flush draw and the fact that there's two shorter stacks that he wants to bust before he does.
yeah, sort of like he can comfortably, at least on the flop, he can comfortably check call. So
Just get wait. This gets spicy, Wes. And I'll tell you what, I've never, yeah. I don't want to spoil it, but I'll hold my thought until afterwards here. But this hand, well, I'll just say it was very bad in my eyes. So the
okay,
flop is five, deuce, eight, three spades. Marchington has a set. The original opener has two overs and a flush draw. Mika goes with the check. Now, with Marchington in position and pocket fives, a set on this monotone board, are we betting here? My only thought is yes.
oh, totally, yeah, we have a set.
We have a set, and we're always. I mean, as the chip leader, we're going to be applying pressure as well. So, like, even if we didn't have a pair here, I mean, we might bet a lot depending on what we had, obviously. But like, us betting doesn't always mean nutted here.
Yeah, there's no reason that we need to be strong. Like our opponent should know that we're going to bet a lot of weaker hands too, and yeah, we just
So,
want. I mean, we want value.
so Mika checks, and to my very much surprise, Marchington, who I think is a pretty established professional. I don't know if he made the final table of the main one year. He's familiar. I remember seeing him somewhere before. I don't know if it was the main or somewhere else, but he's an
Yeah.
established pro from what I know.
So he, I have his Hendon profile up. He has 3.3 million in winnings. Now that's after this tournament, I will say,
Mhm.
and I don't want to spoil what happens in the tournament. But even regardless of this, his best live cash was seventh place in the WSOP main in 2019 for 1.5 million.
I remembered. Okay, yeah, he did final table the main. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So,
So he has some other pretty good scores, but that before this tournament, the main event was his only like north of 200K score, I
okay,
will
okay.
say. So
Well, to my surprise, Wes, and I'm sure to yours, Marchington within 5 seconds, didn't think for 5 seconds, taps back.
yeah, so let's talk about this. Like, is he just sort of thinking
He's
me
trapping,
he's
right?
trapping, but also like there are a lot of cards that just make it so his hand isn't obviously any spade will make his hand not that strong anymore. Um, is he
But as the chip, I mean, I just don't see that as a reason to not bet.
I agree. And I think the things we have to consider are we're assuming Mika has two overcards of some sort. and if his hand contains a spade, he will call a bet. Like he'll call a small bet for sure.
Yeah,
And if it
yeah.
doesn't contain a spade, like, are we really hoping that he's going to start blasting off into us? That must be the hope here.
And do we want him to? Like on any non I mean, I yes, we do on any non-spade turn, obviously, but like I don't know. I personally would be betting that flop 100% of the time. I would never be checking that back. I would love to hear his thought on that.
I would too, but it goes
So
check, check.
it goes check, check, and relatively quickly. He just didn't put much thought into it, which surprised me. Well, the turn comes the four of spades, bringing four flush on the board. So it's five deuce, eight, four, all spades. Mika now improves to the nut flush, and Marchington has second set. Maybe he just knew. He just saw already. He's like, I feel the spade coming in the turn.
Felt the
I'm going to
spade
lose.
coming.
I'm just going to lose the absolute minimum
Well,
here.
then if he felt it coming, he should have just gone all in and got him off the ace of spades.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's. I think that might be even worse. I'm not sure. So, um, right, and understandably so. Mika now comes in with the lead. He didn't see bet on the flop, but now that he's got the nut flush, he bets 175 into 650,000. With Marchington here now, I think there's one option,
Yeah.
and that's just pure call. I mean, are we on board with that?
I'm on board with the call. I'm definitely on
never
board
fold
with
here.
Yeah, we have 10 outs against a flush. The one thing is, did you have any thoughts on Mika's sizing here? 175 into
He bets
650.
175 into 650. So what is that? 33% ish? Am I wrong?
It's less.
Or it's less.
It's
Yeah, you're right.
27% maybe.
I like it. And the reasons I like it is because number one, our opponent checked back the flop, which initially makes me think that he doesn't have much. He could have like, a queen or his jack, a king, queen, or jack of spades still in his hand and check it back and just try and realize equity. But oftentimes he's just gonna have like maybe like king, I don't know, king 10 suited might three bet pre. This hand in general just got me confused, to be honest with you. But I kind of like the sizing just because I want to get value from all the non-flush hands as well as flush hands.
I guess though, like, my thought is sort of this might be a sort of situation where Marchington is going to be sort of inelastic in the sense that if he has a spade, he's going to call. And I guess if he has a set, he's going to call regardless too. Although we never think he has a set here.
Yeah. Never putting him on a set.
Yeah.
At this point, and by the turn.
Yeah. My thought was actually to bet larger here.
Okay, what would you go? Into 650K, what would you bet?
We could go like 425, 450.
Okay. And what are you trying to get value from? Just spades?
Same exact thing that I guess my point is, like, I think we're going to get calls from pretty much the same sort of range of hands.
Okay.
If he has like pocket sixes with a spade, I think he's going to call either one. If he has sixes without a spade, he's going to fold to either size, And so I think from a balance.
And I guess like king queen is just going to be folding no matter what. So
right. And if it has a spade, it's going to call no matter what.
Yeah. Okay, I'm liking where your head's at now, especially if he has like pocket sixes with a spade, which he can clearly also have.
Yeah, and again, not that we ever think he has a set, unless maybe it's pocket fours. But with his 10 outs and his possibility of it being good, I think he's just going to call. Obviously, I don't think he's going to call it like a 3x pot bet here, but I think he'll call a big bet.
Well, Marchington, loving the price now that there's a four spade out there. I mean, obviously, he would love to see probably a larger bet if it wasn't a fourth spade on the turn, but he ends up calling, and the pot is now exactly 1 million. This is where my mind is absolutely I have no idea how to play poker, apparently. I mean, these guys are at a final table playing for almost $1 million. And then this action on the river. Are you ready for this? I'm going to let you guess. What do you think happens on the river?
Well, the way you're describing it,
I kind of set you up here for sure.
Yeah. Well, it could still, because I don't know what the river card is yet.
Here, we'll get to it on the video. So the dealer peels out the ace of diamonds. So the full board is 5 deuce 8 4 all spades, and then the ace of diamonds on the river. So the original
Okay.
raiser now has ace of spades. So he's got the nut flush draw, and he also has the ace, so he blocks the top pair. So that remove, it's more likely that Marchington doesn't have an ace here.
Yeah, I mean the ace itself is
It's kind of
not.
irrelevant.
Yeah, if anything, maybe it makes it so Mika's more likely to have the nuts here because if he had an ace high, now one of the aces is unavailable, you know?
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Um
Well,
so I'm gonna guess it either goes like bet raise or it goes check bet raise. It's weird. It feels like it's gonna be hard for Mika to make a big mistake. I feel like Marchington's gonna do something weird.
well, let me tell you
Yeah.
something, Wes. You are none of those were right.
Okay. Well, I'm just
None of those were right.
okay.
Mika now checks
Goes
the nut
check
flush,
check.
and Marchington snap checks back the set. So this hand is exactly how you lose all your value.
Yeah, this just seems bad by Mika. I mean, if we think about it here, Marchington when he calls the turn, and it's funny, I as we watch the video, I can see that Marchington has like this faint smirk on his face where he's like, well, that was
Did you see the disgust on Mika's face? Let's go back one more time. Yeah, I mean, I won't do that because we have audio listeners, but oh my gosh, the disgust on Mika's face after he's like, "Oh, I messed that up," and then Marchington's face when he's like, "Oh, I got away for the minimum." He lost, I think, 4 to 6 big blinds that hand or something
he
with a
lost, yeah,
set
just he lost under 4 big blinds on the whole hand.
with a
And
set versus the nut flush.
yeah, and so
It was
I
incredible.
just think, yeah, as Mika, it's like you have to bet this river because think about if your opponent has the king of spades.
Mhm.
If you check and they bet and you raise, they're probably gonna fold. Like they could very easily fold the king of spades if you check raise, right? So instead of doing that, like make your own bet here, you
I
know?
think Mika tried to get too cute when he didn't need to.
I think he did too. And I think he also overlooked the fact that Marchington's just not really gonna have bluffs here. Like he's
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's not like if there were 3 spades, maybe Mika would turn a hand with 1 spade into a bluff. But it's like he kind of when he calls the turn, he either has a set or a flush already, and we know his flush is maximum king high, right?
Yep.
And we can get value from king high flush or queen high flush from checking or betting. So it's like those hands like a set or a pocket sixes or sevens with a spade or the random, maybe he has ace jack with a jack of spades. Like those hands are probably not going to try and get value, I wouldn't
Yeah,
think.
and
And
especially
so,
say it just doesn't. There's no bluffs,
yeah, so you
and then
just
you have
got to
to
like
hope that he's value betting worse, and then but you might as well just bet to try and get value from those hands because he's just going to check them back most of the time.
agreed. Yeah, I think he screwed that one up. I
And I
think
mean,
we're on the
hey,
same page.
yeah, I mean we're on the same page. I was blown away to see that Marchington only lost 4 bigs or
Yeah.
less after flopping a set there. I mean, when check, bet, quarter pot, call, and then check on the river. And it was nut flush versus set. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Anyways, so moving on past that hand, we have the second hand, which is one Wes picked. You ready to go get at it here?
Yeah, let's go ahead. So we're still kind of in the same situation, 6 left. The blinds are up to 60,000, 120,000 with the 120 ante. It folds to the button here, and Jeff Madsen has king of diamonds, jack of spades. He has just under 4.8 million, which means he has just under 40 bigs. He opens the 255K, so a little over a min raise. Small blind folds, and then we have Marchington again, and he has right around 10 million. Um, he defends, so he has jack six offsuit. And before we get to the flop here, I thought this was kind of an interesting spot for him because this is almost the sort of hand that you could consider just three betting. Like it's an ugly.
It's so bad.
It's yeah, it's pretty bad hand, and you also can put a lot of ICM pressure on
There
Madsen
are
here.
3 other shorter stacks behind Madsen rather.
Yeah, and so Madsen isn't gonna try and get his chips in light. Button, he's gonna have a fairly wide open range, although I think he's gonna tighten up knowing that
It's against Marchington in the big.
yeah, against Marchington being in the big blind. So anyways, defending Jack six offsuit with the ante and stuff, I don't think it's terrible. I
I
might
would say of the 3 options, it's probably the worst.
You think so?
I would so this is what I would do. Knowing that Madsen's gonna have a tighter opening range on the button because I'm the chip leader in the big blind and there's a bunch of shorter stacks. I'm probably most of the time just gonna be just mucking Jack six. Let him have my big blind and take all these good spots that I can. The second option then would be three betting where I know that I can just apply ICM pressure and three bet those hands. I think Collins
Mhm.
the worst of the 3 personally.
I don't totally disagree with you. I
Just
yeah,
playing out of position with a shitty hand that could oftentimes be dominated.
yeah. It's yeah, and also it's like as Marchington too, we have a little bit of ICM pressure on ourselves. Like, playing things pure chip EV wise is like not what we necessarily want to be doing either, but I don't hate it. I think I actually, in terms of like chip EV, I think it's probably okay, or maybe like one pip off of what we want to defend the big blind here. But maybe he's also thinking Madsen is not going to try and play a big pot against him. And so then we're just going to be
He
able
can
to
just take
realize
away. Yeah, either
yeah,
realize his
realize
equity
equity
or
bet.
bluff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Anyways,
like it.
so the pot is 690K and the flop is Jack seven deuce rainbow. So they both flop top pair. Um, Marchington checks. I think just playing in flow makes sense here. Um, Madsen is definitely going to want to bet his top pair. And, are you going to use like a third sizing here? Are you going to size up at
So the
all?
board's Jack seven deuce. I'm second in chips on the button. I have King Jack. On this board, I think It's just a very dry board, right? There's a couple of gutters in there. Um,
Mhm.
there's no flush draws. So honestly, I think so. What is it? There's 690K in the pot. I would probably bet I would say like 180K.
Okay. Yeah, I think a small bet makes sense. Like if we had
Yeah.
a queen nine suited, let's say, or something, we would just try and bet that and take down the pot.
Call me crazy, but on a board dry like this, I kind of tend to bet smaller. And as it gets juicier and wetter, the board, say the flop was Jack nine deuce with 2 spades, I'd probably
Mhm.
size up a little bit more. I might go 60%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There's some situations on dry boards where it's good to size up, but I think this I don't think this is one. I'm gonna just go with the small bet. Madsen ended up betting 205, so very similar to what you had said. He's going just under third pot here.
And as Marchington with Jack six, I mean, we just have a clear call with top pair at this point.
Yeah, I think I will say if we were I don't think it's crazy to raise here. And the reason I
Okay.
say that
Is
is
that
not
as it's clearly not as a bluff, it's as equity denial
it's actually
or
just
in
value in the sense I
value. Yeah.
think I think sometimes people um when you flop top pair you're out of position. There are situations where it's like, okay, well I know I don't want to get all the chips in now with this hand. So, I don't want to raise. And I think I would lean towards calling two with as Marchington here, but just for the sake of like kind of expanding the way we think about it, I could see wanting to raise here. Like if Madsen has a gut shot, if Madsen has a seven, if he has pocket tens, nines, eights,
There shouldn't be
uh,
too many combos of gut shots. There would be eights, nines, and tens, but Would
I
you get
think he'll
value
have
from?
all the gut shots. I think
I
Madsen will
mean,
have.
only if they're suited.
No, I would imagine maybe not 10-8 off, but I would think he would still.
You think he's opening 8-9 off on the button with the chip leader in the big blind?
He might not be, but I think,
Uh, Maybe
yeah,
he is. I'm kind of deducting that.
that's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, that's true. He will want to play tighter based on the big blind being the chip leader. So yeah,
Another
maybe he
reason.
won't have those hands. But yeah, so it's value slash equity denial where he will have plenty of ace high. He will have all of the combos of king, ace, king that have two overcards. He'll have,
That's where the equity denials. Yeah.
yeah, and so not that this is the play for right now. I think that might be more of a middle of the tournament chip EV type of play where he will have the 8-9 offsuits and he will have more 7x than he does now. Like our jack is very often ahead. And I think that we'll get, if we check raise small, we'll get called by a lot more hands we're ahead of than we might think right off the bat.
Maybe, but here's my thought on it as well. So if I'm going to check raise this hand in this spot, the reason why I wouldn't want to is because Jeff is got 4.3 million. I have 9.6 million. Everybody else has less. So he's the only one who can put a detrimental dent, like a dent into my
Right,
stack.
right, right.
And
It's
I don't want to value own myself against a hand like that or against a stack like that. Whereas if someone had like one of the 2 million stacks, I wouldn't necessarily mind trying to get it in against that one.
right. And I'm so that is why I gave the caveat before that last statement of like in a chip EV spot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So again, in this spot, I definitely am leaning more towards calling. And honestly, even in chip EV spots, I'm probably leaning more that way too. But I do think it's good to explore. I think most players, me included, don't really check raise enough. And it's good to have that thought process in your head of, okay, I have top pair. That's usually good. Like, do I want to get value? If I check raise and he calls, he's not going to suddenly turn tens, nines, eights into a bluff. So I don't have to, if I check raise and then check on the turn, I don't have to worry about getting blown off by some hand that is worse than me, but not a bluff. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Moving on to the turn. And I mean, this is how you win tournaments. Boom. The six of diamonds just falls on the turn. So now Marchington, chip leader in the big blind, has top and middle pair. Or I'd say top and third pair.
yeah,
However you want to say it. And then our opponent now has just top pair. So we take a commanding lead. And it's pretty hidden commanding lead.
very much so. I mean, it looks like a complete wreck here. And yeah, so my plan is Marchington. I think now there's an argument to check raise. Like if we check and face a bet, are we going to check raise or check call?
I like check raise because I'm concerned that if I check call and then check river, he's going to check back a lot of hands and I'm going to lose value that way.
Yeah, like it's
Specifically like King Jack. King Jack might is going to check back a lot of rivers that come in because our opponent can make a lot of two pairs straights, whatever the turn. A lot of rivers we don't love with King
yeah.
Jack here.
Now, do we think King Jack will call a check raise here?
Yeah, I do actually. I think our opponent, especially someone like Marchington in the big blind, can have a lot of now combination, like let's say like 5-8 of diamonds.
Okay. And you think you would have called the flop with that?
Yeah, he might for a small sizing because he's got the backdoor flush draw, the backdoor straight draws. It's a thought. There's more hands than just that, obviously, but
Totally. Yeah, there's like some gut shot or the gut shot turned open ender type thing with
yeah,
eight
there's
nine.
a bunch of combination. Yeah, the turn brings in a lot more combinations of draws
Yeah.
that could got there. So, yeah, I do think Madsen with King Jack would call a check raise. What do you think?
I don't know if he would, but my thought is Marchington is if we check and face a small bet, we definitely want to check raise. And if we check and face a big bet, we just want to check call because those are often the hands that are going to bet river, whether it's for as a bluff or for value, anyways. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's sort of what my instinct would say in the moment.
Well, right. And Marchington being the chip leader and he's been applying a lot of pressure. I mean, he could be doing it with a lot of non-nutted hands. So that's kind of another thought as well.
Mhm.
And if we're just folding King Jack, I feel like we're just being exploited or getting run over too frequently.
Maybe.
So yeah, maybe.
Um,
What do you so Marchington obviously checks on the six here after he turns two pair. With Madsen here, are you double barreling? We're not we're
I,
betting this, right?
yeah, I think I would go bigger here because there is a lot of like 7x of diamonds, deuce x of diamonds that has a pair plus a lot of equity. I'm certainly expecting to get called by a jack again. And I think there are a lot of rivers I might check back, but it's the sort of thing where I'm trying to get it's almost like I'm not going for two streets, but I'm going for a very big one street type thing.
Okay. Okay.
So
I
maybe
like
a
that. Yeah.
850K.
Okay. So there's
Um,
1.1 million in the pot. Madsen's got 4.3 behind and Marchington's got 9.6. Let's go ahead and see what he bets. You said what number did you say? 850?
yep.
Psych, he doesn't bet. He checks it back.
Yeah, and so this is why I chose the hand here. Yeah, so Madsen just checks back. He is top pair second kicker on what is a very dry board,
Let
and
me ask you, is it a soul read or is he just afraid of getting check raised?
I think
He's
it's the
pot
check
controlling.
raise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly don't think he can anticipate the six hitting Marchington too much here, but I think it goes back to if we get check raise, is he calling? And I think the answer in this case was no. He would be folding to a check raise because even though it's against the chip leader, it's still a spot where he's bluff catching, and he's probably going to have to bluff catch for his tournament life if he wants to have a chance at winning the hand. And so I
Okay.
think the way he thought about it is he was going to check and then either call a river bet here or value bet when checked too. But he didn't want to put himself in a spot where potentially there could be a decision for his tournament life, even though his hand is very strong. Like he didn't he didn't really view this as a three street type of hand. And so
I agree with that. So,
yeah.
and I would have viewed it the same. So, the check the turn. The pot's still 1.1 million. We get the eight of spades on the river. So the board is jack of diamonds, seven of hearts, two of spades, six of diamonds on the turn, eight of spades on the river. What are we betting as Marchington with two pair here into 1.1 against 4.3 effective?
Yeah. So as Marchington, I would not really expect Madsen to have a strong top pair here. And so even though from a theoretical standpoint, we probably should go big, it's like what natural bluffs are we gonna actually have here? Like is Madsen really gonna hero call us with like a six or a seven or something? Maybe 10-8 even. Like do if we bet let's say 800K into 1.1 million, do we really like anticipate him calling?
I
Because if
don't
we
like big size, and yeah, considering how the actions went.
if we
Again,
uh
yeah.
if we had if we check call on Jack seven deuce, it's like we can have some gutters that either made the straight or we made a pair of eights, or maybe we have a jack. Like I don't know. I guess the one type of hand, if maybe Madsen checks back, I think he does check back Jack nine and Jack 10 because he checked back King Jack. But as Martington, I would anticipate like maybe he checks back Jack nine or something, but maybe maybe we can bet a third pot here and get called by an eight.
I was
Um,
thinking third pot, and then I had a thought. It's like, what hands would he call third pot that he wouldn't call three-fourths pot? So eights, nines, and tens. Well, eights obviously is a rivered set, so that's not. So
yeah,
we'll move that. So nines and tens. I think nines and tens would just as much call it a three-fourths pot as a one-third pot. Do you agree with that or no?
I don't know if I do just because as Martington, we could have a seven or we could have like 8-9, 8-10. And maybe from Madsen's point of view, he would think that we're betting small with that eight or with ace seven. Whereas if he has pocket tens, nines, or 10-8, I don't think he's going to think he's beating value if he's facing a big
Do you
bet.
remember the size he uses here?
It's smaller. It's close to a third here.
I was going to
Uh,
say three. My guess is going to be 350.
yeah, it's 345.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that biased me a little bit, but I do actually see a lot of logic for it because there's no way he thinks he's up against that strong of a hand, you know.
Yeah. And I, in my opinion, as Madsen and as played checking back the turn, we have to just call here all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the announcer makes a comment about, wow, he didn't even think about value raising, which I think actually makes some sense. Like as Madsen, I think we're expecting to be good here a lot, but
Wait, he said Madsen didn't consider value raising on this board?
yeah, because like
I'm literally never raising this board here on this river
I
against the big blind defend. In this spot, I'm saying.
yeah, and I think it goes back to like as Marchington, when we bet small like this, I think it's going to be weighted more, or I should say, I think a lot of players are going to perceive it more as weighted towards like an eight or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
maybe a jack four suited type of thing, a weak top pair.
So my defense to that is I do think there's a time and place for thin value, but when ICM is so heavy, value owning yourself is not a good play. Keeping your distance between those two really
Totally.
short stacks.
Yeah, and that's I agree with you, and that's why I would also just call, even though I would call expecting to be like good a majority of the time. Like I would think we're even against his value bets, we're mostly ahead.
Yeah.
But I also don't, if we raise, it's like, what if we get three bet bluffed, or what if he has, if we get three bet, what if he does have a different sort of hand? And so it's not. Um. Anyways, yeah, Madsen just calls and
He
he
snap
sees the
called. I mean,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah, and he sees the bad news, but also in a way he sees the good news where he lost the absolute minimum.
he did.
So
Yeah. So well done to him for not losing it all there. I still would have liked a turn bet, but I also don't hate the turn check. So going on to the third hand here, this one's kind of like a filler hand. There's not a lot of action to it. I'm just curious, my thought, if you think this is a punt or not.
okay,
So Mika, who's now got 6.75 million, so 6,750,000 or so, folds to him on the button. So it's four-handed now. So cutoff folds. He's on the button with pocket tens. He makes it 250 at 120k BB, so just over two bigs. Um, Marchington in the small blind folds, and now our opponent in the hand is in the big blind. Johnson is his name. He's got 2.1 million. So what is that? Like 18 bigs?
yeah, that's just about 18 bigs here.
He's got 18 bigs and ace four offsuit in the big blind. What are our options here as the shortest stack? So the next biggest stack is like 4 million. He's the
Yeah,
shortest with ace four here. What do we do with ace four here? Is it pretty pure call? And let's keep into consideration. We're not talking middle of the tournament stuff. We're talking at right now, final
yeah.
table, four left.
Um, I think I'm jamming. Like if the second stack, first off, we're up against a button range. Second, when there's four left, there's actually like less ICM than when there's 7, 8, 9 left.
Right. Right.
Kind of the closer you get to heads up, the less ICM is a factor. It would be a bigger factor, except like the second shortest stack has basically double what we have. So we're not
Too
in a
worried about that.
situation where survival is as much of the priority. Like we're not expecting there to be a lot of situations where those, someone else gets all in that risk before we do, at least in the near future, I should say.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I think, yeah, ace four offsuit. It's like we have the blocker, we have a lot of chip, we have plenty of fold equity, and you know.
I agree with all of these points you're making, but I just think that there's so many better spots that can be found. I know, like, if you were to take this into GTO land, it would probably be printing, and you're going to get a lot of better hands to fold. Like, I mean,
Well, that's like ace eight offsuit isn't
it's
going
just
to
going
call
right
us
into the
off
muck,
here.
right? Ace nine
Yeah.
offsuit's going to the muck, probably. Um, I don't know. Maybe ace ten's even going in the muck if it's not suited. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I
18
would think,
bigs, maybe
yeah,
not.
like the ace nine, ace 10 offsuit is kind of the threshold, probably.
Yeah. Um, so Mika opens the tens on the button, and Johnson three bet jams ace four off for about 18 bigs, being the shortest stack with four left. I know that it can be correct, but I just don't think it's the spot for it. And I'm glad to hear your opinion on it, that it differs from mine. It's just something, I mean, I don't know. I
Yeah.
just don't think I'm going to do it.
Here's actually, and I'm going to quote one of the people we've had on our podcast. He didn't say this on the podcast, but he said it to another one of our friends. Like, you don't want to be in the mindset of waiting for a better spot when you already have a good spot. Like, if a spot's plus EV, you just take it, regardless of,
Interesting. Okay.
you know, because like every time you don't take a spot that's plus EV, you're missing an opportunity to like make money essentially.
So I agree with that and I disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with it is because we're not going to be in, for example, this spot. He may never be in this spot again. So there's not a sample size for him to run it 100 times to make that EV from it. Do you see my defense here? It's
I
like this is a potentially one time opportunity for him. So
Yeah,
maybe that justifies him not having to take every plus EV decision, because it's not, I mean, when you're in this spot only once and you're not going to have a large sample size, that essentially to me means
but
nothing.
why play a tournament if you're gonna pass up on plus EV? Like you're gonna just lower your chances of winning if you're not taking all
Because
the plus
again,
EV
I think I
spots.
could find better spots.
I mean, if you get dealt a better hand, though, is what I'm saying. Like now,
Yeah.
if
I
you
also
raise
think
and take
18 bigs has a lot of playability four-handed in what I
yeah,
assume is
that
an hour plus levels.
that part is true. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like loving it, but I also don't think the one time I will say that you can maybe wait for a better spot is if you're in a spot where you are like far and away the best player at the table
Mhm.
and you don't want to like flip with you don't want to take just these tiny edges where when you could have a lot of bigger edges. But I don't think there's really a fish at this table. If we look at all their Hendon mobs, like coming into the tournament, they all had seven figures worth of earnings. Like I don't think there's any one of them that's gonna
Yeah, I
be
agree. They all seem, I mean, I've seen all these guys before. Marchington, Johnson, Meek, I guess I hadn't seen before. So, yeah. Yeah.
yeah
Okay. Well, this is why we talk poker, right? I want,
yeah
we want to learn. We want to see how people look at it differently. Um, yeah, I think I would have just ended up mucking it, but I'm also a nit when it
yeah.
comes to high
Wait,
equity spots.
would you have mucked it or defended?
Oh, excuse me, defended. I would have
Defend. Yeah
defended.
yeah
I
yeah.
would have defended. So the truth is, he would have lost it all anyways because the flop came ace 10 4. So,
Oh.
big, yeah. So he would have flopped top and bottom, and the other guy would have flopped middle set. But instead, he jams, gets snaps, and then loses.
Okay. Yeah.
And he ends up busting in fourth place for a ton. So I'm curious what our listeners think on that hand. If you would jam that ace four off in this specific scenario, again, we're not talking middle of the tournament or wherever, it could be plus EV. Hop in our Discord and let us know what you think of that hand, because I'm genuinely curious. So I'll look forward to hearing those responses in Discord over the next week. Um, we do have one more hand. This one is just, it's the final hand of the tournament. There's nothing too exciting about it. It's just pretty much an extreme cooler. Marchington is heads up against Mika. Marchington has 21.3 million in the small blind, and Mika has 5.15. It's 200K big blind. So he's got 2-4, is it 26 bigs or something?
Yes. Right.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
right. So Marchington limps 7-4 offsuit in the small blind. I think Hmm. Do we want to raise here and just get Mika to fold junk hands, considering we have such a dominating chip lead with the big blind, or as the chip leader in the small blind
Yeah.
here, and our hand is just so junk?
I probably wouldn't, just because like we are in position here and we probably won't get, I mean, we'll obviously get some folds, but I think
That's right.
it's,
As the small blind, you're in position, and when your
yeah.
head's up. Okay, it's a good point.
And yeah, you get to, we do have a big chip lead, but there's no ICM now. So we're not going to get like any overfolds from him.
I also would limp this too, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to hear your thought on it. But I like limping because I'm also going to be limping my aces here.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time, like it's reasonable to limp almost everything. And
Yeah,
maybe, you know, you can have some raising
yeah.
strategies, but like
I like.
limping
Yeah.
most or all of your hands here is pretty good in my
I mean,
opinion.
I don't have a specific threshold of big blinds, but generally, when I'm playing heads up, I typically play a raise strategy if we're super deep, and then kind of adjust to a limp strategy when we're getting more shallow, say sub 30.
Yeah, I agree. I like that.
Okay. So yeah, so he limps the 7-4 off. Mika in the big blind with the 4-5 of diamonds checks back. Seems standard. Yeah. You don't want to raise and then get blown off that hand. And it flops decent. So we just want to see a flop, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're too deep to just rip it. Like if we had a little bit less, maybe there's an argument for just ripping it. But
Okay. So the flop comes 5 jack 6, full rainbow. As Mika with bottom pair here in a 4 kicker, he does have a backdoor straight flush draw, which is not too terribly important at this right now. But are we ever just like leading a big blind here, or do we just playing pretty much check?
I would I would check. I would default to that just with almost everything. Kind of how you talked about how Marchington is going to have a limping strategy, basically like limping everything. And that means he still has, in a weird way, he still like has all the overpairs, whereas we don't, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we can both have like two pair, you know, it's not that clear. And I'm actually like not in the tournament heads up setting when we're this deep. I'm not like quite as sure what the play is, but I would default to just check calling, because if we bet and either call or get raised, like we don't,
You don't really know
if
where
we
you're
bet,
at.
we're not sure if we're getting value or
Yeah. Yeah.
value owning.
I like
So
it. I'm on the same board as you. So Mika checks and Marchington bets 200K into 8. So he bets quarter pot with a 4-5 of diamonds here. I think we have one pretty clear option, which is call, which we just discussed.
yeah,
So Mika makes the call. Now,
three of diamonds or offsuit three,
a
offsuit
3
three.
of diamonds would have been really good, but instead it's a 3 of spades. So now Marchington with 7-4 has the nut straight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
that's
Mika
beautiful.
has and Mika has third pair with an open ender. But heads up, that's still pretty damn strong. Not only could he still be ahead, but he's kind of improved his equity, his assumed equity.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, his equity in practice got way worse, but against any other value hand, yeah, he just gave himself 8 outs.
Yeah. So I think I still don't think there's any reason to like lead here as Mika with the 4 or 5 of diamonds. We're just gonna play pure check here. That's pretty much what I'm gonna do.
I agree. My thought is I'm going to check call again. Like our five could still be good against a lot of
Yeah.
bluffs. Maybe
Trying to
not.
take our 5 to showdown, essentially.
Yeah, and if
Unless
you
we
know,
hit the
if
deuce on the river or something.
totally, yeah, and if we're against a jack, like we probably have 13 outs, you know,
Well,
and so
Marchington is licking his chops. What does he bet into 1 million, and our opponent has 4.95? What are we betting here to try and get it all in
I
by the
would
river?
bet something around pot, like a
Yeah,
million.
I like that. Yeah, you're trying to build it up to 2 million, take 1 million out of his, and then just maybe slightly over bet jam the river.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like we can have, there's a spade on the turn. Like we could have turned spades. We could have 7-8, 7-9. We could have a four. You know, obviously, we have a four with a seven here, but like we could have, there are a lot of draws we could be bluffing with. And so I think if we have a straight or two pair or like maybe king jack plus, I would just go very big here. So
Okay. So he did go big, but not as big as you and I would have. He went three quarters, 700, right on it, almost 750K.
mhm.
With Mika, I think we just have a pretty pure call here, or what do you think?
Yeah, pure call. We have some showdown value and some equity, so we can never fold, and there's not really incentive to raise.
I agree. And Mika agrees as well as he lands on call here. The pot is now 2.5 million. Our we have 20 million with the nut straight, and our opponent has 420, 4.2 million. Light it,
4.2.
light it up. I do not condone the use of drugs.
Oh,
Well, Wesley, we
all
get the
right.
deuce of hearts on the river. So now both of us have a straight here. And I think that's pretty much just seals our fate. This is what we call getting dealt a game over. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the one thing to discuss as Mika is like, do we want to lead here or do we want to check
Check jam.
jam? Yeah.
Yeah.
What are
It's
your
interesting
thoughts?
because check jam is always a four, whereas leading isn't always a four.
Yeah, like we could have as Mika now, we could have 7-8. We could have maybe, you know, we could have something like 5x of spades where we think we're not like, are we gonna try and get a jack to fold? I don't know. 7-8 makes sense as a bluff,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah. Yeah.
do
Maybe seven,
we
nine of spades or something like that.
actually any 7-9 is a double gutter on the turn, so
Yeah.
that makes sense to have check called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree. And then do we want to lead like do we want to lead small to try and
Induce. I would like to see like 650K.
650? Yeah, like do we want to polarize? Basically, what do we want to do? Are we trying to ensure the call or is it better to polarize
I
here?
don't, now that I think about it, I don't know if betting small and in hopes to get raised on this board
Yeah,
is
like
the
he's just gonna
play.
call with a jack if we
Yeah.
bet some.
And he's I don't think he's gonna try and bluff either.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
So maybe at this point, I think I like check jam just because of that reason to get the
okay,
maximum.
interesting. Okay, I was thinking I would lead big
Okay.
instead.
Oh, that's my other option. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Check jam or bet like 1.7 into 2.5.
Hmm.
What do you think? What sizing
Yeah,
would you lead?
I actually, now to be clear, like in the moment, I might sort of instinctively check and go for the check jam just to play and flow. As we talk about it now, I kind of like the lead just because I think it's more believable for my opponent that I would lead big as a bluff with my 7-8, 7-9
Hmm.
than like
Then
it's
with
less believable that I would check jam and like if
That's
I
exactly what I said to start this conversation off.
right, yeah, like it's very, of course, like the best players in the world will be balanced, but even as good players, do you and I really think that when we check jam, we're gonna have anything except a four? Like that's tough to it's tough to come up with.
Yeah.
Um,
Mika, I mean, it's not that it's out of his playbook. I just think the more standard play, the play people are going to do most frequently is going to be check in hopes
mhm.
that your opponent bets here. I do like the lead though as well. I'm on par with that. And if I did, I would go big to induce because I don't think our opponent would be bluffing on this board specifically. Now,
Yeah, or not to induce, but to just like get value, hope that a jack still calls the big bet, right?
yeah, well, yeah. Essentially, yes, that is correct. So Mika checks. What is marching team gonna go for here? I mean, he has the nuts.
Yeah, I mean, there is the all in option here. I think theoretically, I'm sure that all in is the right play just because
He's just trying to cooler all fours and two pairs,
he's trying
probably.
to cooler all fours and like, you know, that would be if we're going to bluff, what better? I guess yeah, when you have the absolute nuts and you can cooler So, like as Miko, when he has a 4, that feels like it's basically the nuts. You
Yeah.
only lose to 7-4. And so yeah, I don't think you want to risk if we bet 2 million here instead of 4.2. If we bet big, Mika might be in a spot where he's like, well, I was gonna check raise, but like I don't think I'm getting called by anything worse than a 4. So maybe I should just check call expecting to win or chop, but like as Mika, he might come to the decision that like this is such a the big bet is so polarized as it is. I don't think I'm gonna get called by a set here even. So I think just to not risk not getting it all from a 4, Marchington should jam here. And there's still
Well,
like a small chance you get a bluff catch from a jack or something.
Well, he grabs his biggest stack of highest denomination chips, and was that redundant? Anyways, he uh he stuffs it in the middle. He goes all in. So there's
Yeah.
2.5 in the middle, and he bets 4.2 million essentially.
Yeah, I think it's
And
fair.
as Mika, we have a clear snap call. Marchington snap flips over the absolute stone nuts. Mika, sits there in despair. He actually didn't even flinch. I couldn't believe it. He just kind of took it as okay, that's what it is. Now he's smiling a little bit. It's a big cooler, but Marchington goes on to win this massive NAPT event. I love that these are in the States now. I always wanted to play an EPT, but with this being available in the States, I think I might switch over to an NAPT event unless I
Mhm.
somehow get the opportunity to go over to Europe. What did you think overall? Pretty solid play.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We had a couple hands. Like the first hand, I thought there was some bad play. I think the
the
second
the
hand,
the loss of value on that first hand was atrocious in my opinion. But here's the thing: is like sometimes we all get cute and make mistakes when we shouldn't. I mean, it just happens. We're all human. We can't always play perfectly. So that could have just been one of those
yeah.
scenarios.
Well, it's all that second hand, with the top pair versus two pair on the jack high board. It's like it's interesting to have a bit of an insight into. I think it's easy with like the king jack to say, oh, we have to bet this turn, but if you're in third place out of 6 and you're in a heads up pot against the chip leader, like sometimes it is just important to make sure you're not in a situation where you're putting all your chips in or like having to put all your chips in, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, cool to see kind of what their thought process is on that or to at least guess at it. Um,
yeah. It's cool to
and
see. Yeah, and I'm glad we get a lot of familiar faces here as well, being in Las Vegas. So that was a pretty cool final table. Also, this if you're watching the video version, this chip set is one of the prettiest chip sets I've ever seen. I love these chips.
really,
Do you not like that? It's like for the listeners, it's like they're like pink, there's pink, orange, and blue. So it's a very
yeah.
vibrant set. Yeah, I know. All right, just shut your mouth. I can see that smirk, and I already know what you. Just shut. I don't want to hear what you're about to
No,
say because I already know.
honestly, what I was gonna say is it just looked. I didn't even really have any thoughts about the chipset. I I don't know if I really have a favorite one. Maybe
Okay,
I would go with the WSOP, like their newer ones,
the
even though I
old
don't.
main event chips were so good. Oh,
Yeah,
the old main event
but I
WSOP.
think it's more just because there's something. I think it's just the excitement of the World Series in general. I don't think the chips are any more special, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're just chips in the end run. But what an awesome final table. If you like this content, if you enjoy us doing these big final table reviews, let us know. Hop in Discord. Let us know what you think. We want to put out the best content possible for you guys. We want to put out what you want to listen to. At the same time, we want to help you guys learn the best you can at no cost to you. You know what I mean? Besides your time of listen. So we appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast, to watch this YouTube video, to support Suited Kings. Thank you so much for doing that. Wes, anything else you want to end off before we sign out here?
one thing I don't know if we've mentioned, I know we have at times, but if you listen on Spotify, give us a 5-star review on there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Don't even have to do a review, just give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah.
Or on,
Whatever
wherever you
platform
listen
you
to
listen.
us.
Yeah. We
Yeah, we
appreciate the
really
reviews.
appreciate it. And it actually it helps us just a little bit. I know it helps, we will get suggested to more other listeners who like similar
It improves our
content.
algorithm chances, our surviving in the jungle, the algorithm jungle, we'll say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're trying to grow, and we have a great group of listeners now. But we want, we would love to get our content in front of as many poker fans as there are. So
Yeah.
we'd
Couldn't have said it
appreciate that,
better.
guys. And yeah, Discord, Clubs Poker, meetup game. For those of you in Minnesota or near in the Midwest who are going to come play, good luck in the Cheap and Deep at Canterbury this weekend.
That's right. I will be there at Cheap and Deep this week, and I think I can only play one of the starting flights, maybe two. We'll see how the weekend goes. It's been a busy week for me, but if you see me there, say hi. If we're at a table together, I'm sorry for sucking out. So I'm picking myself for winning this one, Wes.
I'll pick you too. I'll
All
pick you
right, I
too.
like that. I like that. And then so this will be my last event before the WPT in the beginning of December. I'm going to go out for the WPT Prime 1100, and then potentially stay for the 10K. That's still in the air. I haven't made any plans for it yet. It's hard with the holidays, with work and all that stuff. So
Totally, yeah, and I'll be there too. I guess I should mention tomorrow I'm flying down to Florida to play in Hollywood. There's a $400 2 million, and there is
that's
a
insane. That's such a big guarantee for
yeah. It
$400.
has some serious gladiator vibes. I just gotta say, I
Probably a
don't know
better
if
structure though. Hopefully.
a little bit, but it's actually it's half-hour levels. No, no, no. It'll be 40 minutes, and then after level 24, it's hour-long levels. It's a
Oh, it's
3 day
way
tournament,
better.
so. Yeah, I think it'll start out and it doesn't skip the levels either. The Gladiator skips some levels, so this one does not. Um, this will be a better structure. There are 4 days and 2 flights a day, so 8 total flights. Although it does start today, so I'm gonna max out at like 4 of the flights. And there's also an 1100 that if I'm not deep on day 3, I will get in that one as well.
Cool, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck down there in Florida. I'll take care of it here in Minnesota. And then we'll see each other out for the WPT Prime. Definitely looking forward to that. Guys, thanks
The
again for
big one.
spending the
Yeah.
time to listen and watch with us today. Another episode of the Suit Kings podcast in the books. Hope you guys have a good morning, night, day, whatever the hell you are, whatever the hell is going on.
Evening, afternoon.
Yeah, coffee time, whatever. Hope you
Yeah.
guys have a good one, whatever time it is. And with that, we'll sign off.